Man, so uh, I'm finally able to make this video, and I'm a few days late. Now, I was supposed to shoot this video yesterday, but I saw where a tweet that I had put out about Pritchard Cologne had made it all the way to Vinny Pazienza. So when I saw that, like, I literally stopped everything that I was doing and started shooting that video. So I finally get a chance to address this EA thing. Now, we know that EA put out a message the other day basically saying that on July 20th, they were going to make some updates and about a long-running franchise that they had. And dude, immediately the entire community was like, Fight Night, right? It's going to be Fight Night. Well, looks as though it may not actually be Fight Night, and it looks more likely that it's going to end up being FIFA. But that does not mean that EA will not announce that they are making a Fight Night or are currently making a Fight Night. So, but the question that I have is, what is it going to take after being gone for almost 11 years now? What is it going to take for EA to get back into the boxing business? All right, so before we get started, I wanted to go ahead and talk to y'all about something real quick. I was able to link up with a company named True Classic yesterday. They actually sell t-shirts and stuff like that. I'm actually wearing one right now. In the video I did yesterday, I had one on then too. So the reason I linked up with this company was because they do something for veterans. Y'all know how I feel about, my fellow vets. And they linked up with the Tiny House Project out of Savannah, Georgia. And what they do is some of the money they get from the purchases, they help to build houses for retired veterans. So look, I wouldn't try to sell you guys anything that I don't actually put my money into. I have about 6 of these shirts as of right now. They sell shirts, long sleeve, short sleeve, hoodies, you name it. I have everything down in the description if you want to go by there. True Classic, men. I personally do like them, men. They just fit well and they're just chill, kind of like me. So if you get the chance, please go buy True Classic. If you can make a purchase, by all means, please do so. Look, I don't receive any money for any of this. All of this is literally because they help out the veterans, man. So True Classic, link will be in the description. Now, what would it take for EA to get back into the boxing business? In order to answer that question, you partially have to look at what the current landscape is of video game boxing. And right now, we all know Esports Boxing Club, and then there's a couple of arcade style boxing games that are out there. But Esports Boxing Club is what's kind of leading the way right now, especially when it comes to the fight roster, which is really the most important part. Nobody is going to judge EA as far as what they can do in the realm of graphics and all of that type of stuff. They're a multi-billion-dollar company, right? If anybody was going to get that criticism, it should be ESBC. They're an indie company. They have nowhere near, or shouldn't have anywhere near, to the amount of funds or the amount of resources as a multi-billion-dollar company like EA. But what we have seen from Esports Boxing Club is just that. We've been getting what you would consider multi-billion-dollar production so far. So for Fight Night, though, and for EA, I don't think anybody would be worried about what they would be able to produce in the form of graphics, right? Or gameplay. Anybody who was a fan of any of the previous Fight Night series, only thing that you would do is hope that they would come back with something similar from that. And then, previous Fight Night fans would more likely be happy. That's kind of what they do with Madden as it is. And Madden is pretty much the same. They change a couple things every year. And then, you got Madden 2022. But the fact of the matter is that when it comes to boxing, the landscape is different. And contracting is really the big thing. One of the questions is, why did EA disappear for almost 11 years in the first place? Some people would say that basically Fight Night Champion didn't sell enough to justify how much they were paying for the licensing. That could or that couldn't be true. No one can prove that. Contracts are a very murky area to kind of like talk about if you're not a part of the actual company itself. That is an area that everyone keeps under wraps. Now, I tried to do some digging as far as esports boxing club and how contracts are, established, what we know, what versus what we don't know. Now, we know that based off of Todd Grisham's talk on with Chris Mannix, that a lot of the fighters for ESBC are being paid in royalties. What does that mean for anybody who doesn't understand what royalty fees are? All right, to explain royalties in an easy, understandable, and digestible way, it's a way of basically saying, look, I'm going to pay you for your likeness so that I can use you in the game, but you are going to receive some form of payment for allowing me to copy you and put you into my game that I'm going to make money off of. That is the easiest way really of describing it. Now, in Todd Grisham's interview with Chris Mannix, he actually used Terrence Crawford as an example. And this is not to say that what he said was the actual offer that Terrence Crawford has. This was just an example he used. Was that basically if he has signed Terrence Crawford, he would have a 4-year contract, basically paid out in royalties. If he's a DLC character, then he receives some of the money from DLC payments. How the royalties are actually set up in their contract versus the terms of their contract and the term length and all that type of stuff, we have no idea. I actually reached out to Todd and I tried to ask, because my real question was, after the 4 years were to run out per his example, what happens then? Does that mean that Steel City loses the rights to the fighter and then that person is just gone? Or do we have to re-up on a brand new contract? Or does their contract basically say, I'm going to pay you for 4 years, but I maintain the ability to use your likeness in the game past the 4-year contract? Sadly, I wasn't able to get anything. And like I said before, contracts are something that are very, very, very difficult for anyone to talk about, especially in the open. No one's going to want to talk about that type of stuff. Not only that, man, but your rivals are technically out there listening. So I wasn't expecting to get anything back, but if I was to get lucky, then I would have got something. Now, what does all of this have to do with EA and Fight Night? It actually has a lot. Because if it was true, right, that EA said we can't continue with Fight Night, right? The business of boxing is just starting to get far too expensive. These boxers are starting to utilize their own power, their own businessmen, and they're asking for too much money. And we're not making enough. If that was the case, then we would have solved the problem for why Fight Night never came back. But if that was the case then it's definitely the case now. If they decided to come back, how do they usurp ESBC and get back into the boxing business and video games? Right now, you could very well say that the sport of boxing is a far more expensive thing, especially after the retirement of Floyd Mayweather and all that he did in boxing. It is a far more expensive business now than it was almost 11 years ago. What would EA have to do in order to say, hey, I understand your rival, well, our rival is over there and they're paying you this. We want to pay you this. It would take for an extreme mindset shift at this point to say, look, we're willing to go out on a limb here. We're willing to pay you what you're asking for, even though you're asking me to pay you more than what these guys are already paying you in order to get you in the game. Listen, I don't work for EA and I don't know anybody over there, but I can tell you this. I would be hard pressed as a businessman to want to pay the exact same fighters and get them into my game and have to pay them more than what my current rival is paying them right now. I don't think that they will be willing to actually make that step. And mind you, I could be very wrong. Now, there are fighters that are still out there that we know that are not signed by ESBC yet. There are names that we all want in the game that have not been announced yet. We haven't heard names like Javante Tank Davis. We haven't heard names like Devin Haney. We haven't heard Ryan Garcia, Teofimo Lopez, Floyd Mayweather, Deontay Wilder, Tyson Fury. These names are still floating out there. And yes, EA could say, well, we'll go poach the guys that you haven't signed yet and sign them before you can get your hands on them. And I would say it would be a good idea to do that. But what size roster are you going to come out with if those are the only guys that you get? On top of that, ESBC has an enormous roster right now. Do you all think that those names would be enough to poach players from Esports Boxing Club to come over to Fight Night? Or would it just be a waste of money? Like, I'll say this, without some form of unionized licensing or some type of umbrella licensing, which is really kind of EA's MO when it comes to, signing fighters. They'll just sign players of a sport or individuals in the sport. They sign everything. That's what they've done with the NFL. It's also what they've done with UFC. And if it is true that they stepped away from Fight Night years ago simply because they didn't make enough money based off of what they was playing each individual fighter, what do you think a company like EA is going to do to make up the difference? You are talking about a game that is potentially going to be riddled with microtransactions just to make up the difference. And we already know what type of history EA has when it comes to microtransactions. Listen, I'm completely behind it if they decide to come out with another Fight Night. I think right now is probably not a good time. Allow ESBC to do what it is that they're going to do. Take some time to kind of like test the community a little bit and then introduce something. I don't think now is the time for it. But again, boxing is boxing, man. You know how we are. If it's been a long time. Anything we can get right now, we'll just about take. So if EA decides to drop another boxing game, man, then I guess we'll just have something else to talk about. But we'll see. July 20th is just right around the corner. So appreciate y'all for coming back to the Coach's Corner, man, like I always do. We're almost there to 1K subs. Remember, we're having a PC giveaway at 1K subs. So please, man, appreciate y'all for coming back. Appreciate y'all for taking the time to watch. Anybody who stayed to the end, please make sure to check out True Classic. It's going to be down in the description, man. Money goes to a good cause. You know how I am about the veterans. So I will catch y'all all on the next one. Peace out.